So let's move to the hangar. This is probably the more complex screen that you're going to face in this tutorial and before you actually jump into a session. However, in truth, it's what it's doing is pretty standard. This is simply where you come to equip your components and create a loadout. So if you look on the left-hand side here, you have 3 bays, and you've got a loadout in each bay. And a loadout consists of 1 mech chassis, 1 thruster, 1 weapon equipped in the left side, and 1 weapon equipped on the right side. That's a valid loadout. You have to have those things equipped in here in order to jump into a patrol. If any one of those things is missing, I'll show you in a minute how that works. You won't be able to go in a patrol run. But sticking to the bays, I'll just talk you through them. There's my bulwark mech, there's my aerial, and finally the Hornet. So everything I've got in my inventory at the moment are the starting set of components that you will have in your game as well. If you've played the game before, obviously you may have more, but that's what you'll have as a starting player. So let's go through the Hornet just to sort of show you how this works in equipping and unequipping. So I can equip a different mech in any bay I want. Just on the right here, you can see these are the stats for the mech that I've got equipped. If I bring up the comparison bar just by pressing C, now you can see as I move over, the stats in the right hand box change, and you can see there are red down arrows telling you if that particular attribute is worse than the one that you've got equipped. I'm going to close the comparison, and I'm going to hide the stat screen as well, actually, so we can get a nice view of the mech itself. So I'm going to switch to a different mech now, a mech chassis. I'm going to select the Atlas, and instantly what you can see is everything's gone red. And that's because whenever you switch the actual mech itself, it has no thruster and weapons attached. So you have to come in here manually and attach them. And it's pretty easy, pretty standard stuff. You go in, you click on the thing that you want. Left hand, I'm going to put my Goddard on the left there, and I'm going to put the Tornado on the right. And now you can see everything has turned green there, which means all of these buttons are not red. So I can now go in and jump in, use this loadout in a session. Interestingly, the bay down here with the Hornet, that's all red, and that's because the Hornet was initially in the previous bay, so it's kind of switched out and it's lost its actual loadout. You would just come in and do exactly the same thing and just equip. As long as you've equipped it, everything will turn green again, and now you can use that in your patrol run. So let's go through a couple of things here. In terms of the components themselves, every component is socket locked. What that means is every mech chassis has its own specific socket type, and every component has its socket type. And you can only equip components that are the same socket type as the mech chassis. So for example, in this particular case, as you can see, I've got the Hornet equipped. Now I've only got 1 thruster in here because it's the starting component set, but that jolt can only be used on a Vex type mech. Similar, if I go to the weapons, I've got Kalatuan on either side. Kalatuans can only be equipped on Vex type mechs. I'll go over what a Vex type mech is in a second. But just to finish off on that, if I jump into Bay 2, there's my aerial type mech, and I've got a Ketty and a Gearin as my weapons there. Those are socket locked to the aerial mech. And if I go to the Bulwark mech there, again, the Goddard and the Tornado, they are socket locked to the Bulwark type mechs. So just be careful. The reason why I'm making such a big point of that is if you begin to build new components, please make sure that the component you're building has the same socket as the mech that you want to use. Otherwise, you may end up building a weapon that is the socket makes it only for a mech that you don't like, or a mech type that you don't like, sorry. So yeah, so just keep a bit of an eye on that. Okay, so let's go over the different types of mechs. So we still have a class system of light, medium, and heavy. That's still quite relevant. But we wanted to add a secondary layer to that. And the reason is because when you've only got three different types of mechs, it's fine to just have light, medium, and heavy, and everybody understands those. But because our intention is to add substantially more mechs, we wanted the ability to really mess around with what one type of mech is and what another type of mech is. So we have three mech category classes that is like a sub class of weight, and that's Vex, Aerial, and Bulwark. And the starting components, you have one of each. So I'm just going to quickly run through what each of those are. The Hornet is a light mech, and the categorization class is a Vex. Now, Vex type mechs are the fastest in the game at the moment, so they really dash around. These are the types of mechs you never ever stand still. You have to dash, you have to fly, you have to jump, you have to move left, you have to strafe every which way. If you stand still in a Vex, it has a relatively low shield capacity and it has a relatively low hull HP. That's why you have to keep moving around. But its speed and maneuverability is at the very, very height of mech tech. And so that's how you have to play with it. You need to jump around, or be moving all the time because it can be killed substantially easy if you meet a tough opponent out there. So yeah, it's a short range. Most of its weapons are quite short range. So that's how you would play a Vex mech. Now let's have a look at the aerial. The aerial is exactly how it sounds. These are Hawken Reborn's attack choppers, if you want. Flight is their biggest strength. Their thruster allows them to fly for a very, very, very long time. And you only need to come down for a few seconds and then you can get back in flight again. So their fuel usage when in flight is really, really low. And the way I play with an aerial mech is I fly all the time. I very rarely touch the ground. Like I said, I only touch the ground in order to refuel, and that's it. And if I look at the weapons here, the Ketty is a grenade launcher, and one of the beauties of playing up in the air, there are a couple of things. The first thing is you're harder to hit. So enemies find you much harder to hit because you're flying around in the air. You've also got a really nice fast dash when you're up there too, to add to the movement and especially getting to somewhere faster. But also when I'm up there flying, precision with bullet-based weapons can be much lower. So I'm a lot less precise when you're flying. And that's why something like the Ketty, and if I wanted to an actual rocket launcher, etc., for if I wanted to build that in the future, the AoE damage that's created there is absolutely perfect. These are great for ground control. I just drop bombs on everything and anything, and I end up killing a lot of stuff, a lot of enemies that way. So yeah, the strengths are up in flight, drop bombs on everything you can from up there, and continue moving, continue strafing while you're up there, and you'll become much harder to hit. The weakness of an aerial is that it has a rather long shield recharge cooldown time. So if you find your shield is relatively low, you're going to have to go into cover and you're going to have to stay in there for quite a while. I think it's something along the lines of 7.5 seconds. We're still balancing these numbers, but yeah, about 7.5 seconds. You have to stay in cover. The shield will kick in, and then you can go again. And that's its biggest weakness. All right, let's move to the Bulwark mech, which is our Atlas. Um, Bulwarks are exactly what you expect. These are our tank mechs. So weakness is that it's very slow in comparison to the other two mechs. It's much more cumbersome to control, again, compared to the other two type mechs, especially in flight. So jumping isn't as smooth, flying around with it isn't as smooth. Getting up to the higher sections of levels, is a little bit trickier. You've really got to think about what the steps you're taking in order to get up high, because obviously our levels and our world has got a substantial height to it. The positives with a bulwark type mech is exactly what you expect. Its shield and hull HP are very, very high. This thing can take some real hammering before you need to worry about your health. So I would suggest, if you're a new player and you're finding that you're dying relatively fast in a session by playing either of the other two type mechs, give this guy a try, because at the very least he'll give you that bit of space in order to take the hits, and just allow you to learn a little bit more about the finer details of the game and how it works and what you should be afraid of and what you shouldn't be afraid of, etc. So I wouldn't say it was a starter mech. I'm just simply saying, if you're finding you're dying, try this guy out, because you'll be able to stay out there for much longer. So yeah, so that's the bulwark mech. What else is there on the Hangar screen? I'm just going to touch on these two buttons here very quickly. So in another video, we're going to go through exactly what the modify screen does and what the component XP is. But just to say, they are here on the Hangar screen. They link to other subscreens. Modify is every component in the game has its own mod tree, which is like a skill tree basically. And you can go in there and you can modify various attributes for every component. And again, every component has a component XP. So this button doubles up as a button and an XP bar. So you can see at the moment I have 0 out of 500. That's because I've not gone out with this mech since I reset my save. And when you go out into the world, you earn XP, CXP, just by killing stuff. I'll explain a bit more about that when we go out on a patrol itself. But keep an eye on this. The idea is you go out onto patrol and you earn CXP, and as you max out this bar, then you can upgrade to the next mark level, and that's how you get more powerful components. So because we have two ways of doing that. One is modifying and one is upgrading. Like I said, I'll go through these in a bit more detail in another video.